nice words, and I'm happy to be here tonight with all of you. And so I'm going to start with something that is not in my prepared remarks. Raise your hand if you in this room have ever heard of the name John Ehrlichman. Anybody? John Ehrlichman. John Ehrlichman served as the White House counsel under Richard Nixon. And when you read the books that sort of track the beginning of the mass incarceration state in the United States, pretty much all tracks back to the end of the Lyndon Johnson administration and the beginning of the Nixon administration. There was an article published in the Huffington Post 2 years ago that came to mind immediately as I was trying to figure out what I was going to talk about tonight, which quoted an article from 1994 in which Ehrlichman said, essentially, we knew what we were doing when the target of the Nixon administration was black people, and the drug policies that were, particularly around marijuana and cocaine that were unveiled by the Nixon administration were specifically targeted to decrease the political power of African Americans in the United States. And so I think about that all the time. Another thing that I think about all the time is what's going on right now with the Mueller investigation regarding Russian interference in American elections. And I just think it's sort of a double standard, right? How many of us have heard of the nefarious things that John Ehrlichman did within this country, and yet as soon as something happens from afar, we all lose our minds and start to be afraid. But why aren't we afraid of the ways in which our the country itself has been sabotaged from within by people who would divide us and who would victimize people based on the color of their skin? So I just think that's interesting, and I think it's something people don't talk enough about. Anyway, that's my added little anecdote. I will now awkwardly open my notes. So again, thank you so much for having me. In my time tutoring in the Philadelphia prisons, I've been tutoring there since the spring, actually the winter of 2017, when right after I began college at Haverford College, about 20 minutes drive from here in Ardmore. And I've met a lot of incredible people through this. Basically, all the people that I've met through this program have been incredible, whether or not it's Emma, who's the best, and or any Rosemary and Jim are also wonderful, but also the people you meet in the waiting room when you go to PIC, which is Philadelphia Industrial Correctional Center, where I tutor on Friday mornings and Friday afternoons. I have found those people to be inspiring, and the guards as well, and as well as the students that I have the privilege of working with. There's a quality that the people I work with there have that often it's sort of like preconceived pessimism is what I'm going to call it, right? People are going about their days sort of with the notion that this structure of incarceration and poverty and then release, then reincarceration must continue, and just will continue. And sometimes I see it in people's eyes that they just don't think that it can be halted, which gives me all the more joy when I have the privilege to make even a small dent in this structure when I work with some of my students. So the first student that I'm going to talk about, his name is Jameer. He's currently doing 3 to 5 years in the state prison in Pennsylvania, which I'm thrilled about because that's less than it could have been. And Jameer is this bright, bubbly guy, and when I looked at him, I could sort of see and started to work with him. He was both the most enthusiastic and the most distracted kid in the class, which is what I used to be, and sometimes still am. And it was like I could look back in time and see the wheels come off the wagon in his life. It's like I could almost imagine the kindergarten teacher who couldn't just deal with the smart, bubbly, but difficult kid in a class of 30, and that's where Jameer fell off. Because Jameer is a smart kid, and I have a huge amount of confidence in his future, but what really took me aback about Jameer was that, Jameer has a daughter who he loves very much, and he talks about her frequently. And then, only after a couple weeks of working with him, was I told that Jameer is my age. We were the same age. I had no idea. And it took my breath away. So it was like I had fallen straight into the heart of this criminal justice system that can create out of very similar people completely different lives on the basis of where I was born, to whom I was born, what the color of my skin is, and our lives have diverged from there. But there's also hope, right? Jameer, to watch him become enthusiastic about a lesson, even though it's only possible to do that if you sit with him for the entire lesson, do one-on-one, but he was growing right before my eyes. The same thing happened with one of my other students, who was named Derek. One time we were doing literacy work, and at the end of it, it was a particularly good session. He said to me, I think if I keep this up, maybe I can teach my daughter how to read. And that was just amazing to hear. And I also, one time, with a little help from me, there was another man named Marcus that I worked with, and we sort of spent an afternoon on long division together. And to watch him crack it was incredible. Just like see how proud he was of himself was just amazing. And that has really given me hope, right? As you know, to walk out of a prison on a Friday afternoon and like look at my weekend is not always the easiest thing to do, because my students are going to be locked up for the weekend, and they're nice guys that don't have a lot to do, and it's sort of sad to walk away from them. But at the same time, there was a lot of hope there. And in what I do, so I work in political organizing most of my really every summer. So I'm right now working as the field director for Padalano, a truly progressive woman. She's running for Middlesex District Attorney in Massachusetts, and she's really, I think, a true criminal justice reformer. So this is why I had to take a late bus, followed by another late bus, because I've got a full weekend of events and door knocking to attend to. But it's always hard to keep your hope up on a political campaign or in a classroom or in a prison, because there's apathy everywhere, right? People that just don't want to be, like in politics in particular, disengagement kind of comes with the territory. It's like a fundamental part of how we do politics in this country. It's hard to engage people, it's hard to get people to vote. Half the country didn't vote in our last election. But to watch hope spring from the most kind of dire corner, like from behind razor wire, it makes me confident that I think we can really achieve great things if we only listen to each other. And I think if people in this country can find themselves to watch and listen and learn from the people that we try to hide by putting them in prison, then we are all going to find that if hope can come from there, and hope can come from you, can come from you, and we can all be part of making something better if we can start in the place where it seems least likely to occur. Just a couple of weeks ago, I was in Lowell, Massachusetts, which is a pretty economically downtrodden place. We were handing out literature at a... Sorry, raise my voice? Okay.
You gotta talk louder than the air conditioner.
A little louder? Sorry. I was handing out campaign flyers at this event, and a gentleman came up to us and I said, where are you going to be on September 4th? Because that's election day, because oftentimes we ask folks, would you like an absentee ballot, right, if you're not going to be around? He said, I won't be around. I was like, oh, okay, where are you going to be? He said, I'm going to be in jail. And I said, all right, well, we were talking about the platform, and I said, well, our opponent's actually down the street. If you want to meet her, you can just find her and see which one you like better. He said, no need. You guys are with us. And it was Petey Greene, I think, that gave me the conviction and the tools to have a conversation with someone who is a convicted felon, and also just to see that, hope can come from anywhere. I had forgotten, actually, that, hope through education was the tagline of the Petey Greene program. And I wrote my whole speech about hope, so I think that says a lot about what Petey Greene is, what Petey Greene can be, and I think that with your support, we can really, work together and bring the people who are behind bars into the light where they belong. So, thank you.